changing the world of work for women everywhere. We are Watermark. We're the only nonprofit women's leadership organization that spans all industries. We connect, develop, and advocate for the advancement of women in the workplace. The Watermark community includes senior executives, entrepreneurs, and emerging executives that support you not only at the top of your field, but also on your way up.
So pausing can be all shapes and forms, and I think pausing where it really matters is getting out of your comfort zone a little bit. So whenever you catch yourself saying, that sounds ridiculous, or that's stupid, I'm not doing that, I don't have time for that. Well, guess what? That's like an invitation. That's like your own custom invitation to try it. Because then you know there's a reason that maybe you're not wanting to do it, and then challenge that. Come with your growth mindset and open mindset. Dr. Carol Dweck talks about growth mindset, and it's in pause. And you can potentially be curious and change things, but it really just is an experiment. So those are different ways to pause, and the belly breath is another one where you can put your hand on your diaphragm or your belly, whatever you want to call it, and just inhale. And exhale. And like that's a world of wonder. Like it's different, and you can just shift so much in that one breath. So I think those things are great to do as daily pauses. So that leads me into talking about yearnings. And before I jump into that, so when we do pause, we have an opportunity to be with ourselves, whatever that means, right? If I'm walking around the block, or I'm standing here with my hand in my face, or I'm connecting with someone in a conversation that I wouldn't normally have, those are all pauses. And what really is important is that these are ways that new ideas can emerge, like I mentioned, or new feelings can emerge, or new thoughts. And there's this concept that I've studied called yearnings, and this is going to be going into Judith Wright's work. So Judith Wright is one of my mentors, so I give her full credit for what I'm going to talk about. But the idea is that when we can tap into our yearnings, which are our deeper hungers, and these are here as examples, to matter, to love and be loved, to be seen, to contribute, to connect, to belong, to achieve mastery, to be affirmed, to connect with a higher power, and goes on, and we all have different ways we're wired for yearnings. But the idea is that when we can learn what we yearn for in any moment, so right now, here and now, right now, we can actually move towards fulfilling those yearnings. And sometimes pausing really helps with that. And that's my whole premise of pausing, is that it creates the space to find your truth, which might be a yearning. So we're going to do an exercise in a minute, but I took this quote that I found today because the idea is that yearnings are our deeper hungers, but we think they're other things, like scrolling through Facebook or on your computer. And those are wants, right? So we can all identify with those. Those might be the digital device reasons why we want to pause. And so the key is these activate different neurotransmitters in our brain. And this is all about the brain science of this, and I'm not a neuroscientist by any means, but the idea is that when we have surface level wants meaning I want a new car, I want to go on vacation, I want a new dress, I want some new shoes, I want to go swimming, I want $1 million. These are all surface level wants, and these are activating dopamine in our brains, which is really that like craving center that we want to have a short, quick fix. However, yearnings actually go underneath those, and they actually activate a separate center in our brain and create opioid neurotransmitters. And they have a different sense in our world. And we're gonna talk about this in a minute. But just to read this quote, which I think is super important, our dopamine system doesn't have satiety, but built into it. So these are those surface level wants. And we can never truly be satisfied by our wants. Our cravings for our soft addictions, and she calls soft addictions those addictions like the scrolling through Facebook or catalogs or going shopping, all those things, all those fun things. It is only when we pursue our yearning that we activate the satisfaction centers of our brains and experience true fulfillment. So knowing that, we're going to do a little exercise right now. So this is kind of fun. This is where we get into it. So I want everyone to turn towards a partner near you, preferably someone you don't know. Just lock eyes with someone if you want to be a partner. And you guys can stand up. Okay, wind it up. Wrap up the wants list. Let me get you back. Get you back up in the front. Have a seat. All right. Let me get you back. Thank you for sharing wants. Okay. So what did that feel like for everybody? Anyone want to share? Just shout it out. What? It was fun. It's fun. Where was the energy in your body? Like, where did you feel things? Stomach, head, heart. Okay, all over. In your hand.
It's really hard to talk when you wanted to listen to the other person in reality.
Yeah, it is hard to talk when you want to listen to the other person. And the idea is to just kind of like list off stuff, and you might hear a couple things, but it's really about being more with your wants, I'd say. But yeah, so the energy, what we're experiencing when we go through the wants is the dopamine system. So those neurotransmitters are those wants. I want to go, I want to get a car, I want to be on the water, I see the boat, I want to be in the sunset. And it's like up here in general. And so that feels good, right? What's the feeling? It feels great. It's like awesome, fun, yeah. Do you have it right now? It's really quick. It's like in and out. It's gone, usually. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears a little bit and do it for yearnings. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. But before we do that, I want everybody to take a deep breath. And close your eyes. Just sit quietly with your eyes closed. And I'm going to read out loud some of these universal hungers that we all have and see if you can identify with any of them. And some may feel a pull, a tug towards, and some may not. But know that this is something that is a universal, deeper desire that is within us as people. And so yearnings are who we are, and all human beings have yearnings. And I yearn, maybe you do too, for some of these things, and I will read them. So I yearn a survival and a sense of existence to exist. I yearn to be heard. I yearn to be touched. I yearn to be appreciated. I yearn to be loved, to be affirmed, to be respected. I yearn to express or to experience fully. I yearn to learn and grow. I yearn to trust. I yearn to develop. I yearn to touch. I yearn to create. I yearn to be known, to be understood. I yearn to matter. I yearn to know another person, to be close, to feel connected to others, to make deep contact with another. I yearn to be loved and to love. I yearn to be intimate, to matter, to be valued and to value. I yearn to do what I came here to do on earth. I yearn to make a difference. I yearn to please God, to fulfill my purpose. I yearn to unfold my destiny. I yearn to feel connected, to be one with all, and to feel union with the divine. So let's go ahead and take another deep breath. Exhale. All right. I'll bring you back in. Let me get you back. So let's wind up. If you shared your yearning, thank you. So who wants to share about that experience? What was that like? Did that feel the same? Want to share? Yeah.
Sure. Hi, thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
I felt it was less of a hit, so to speak, and it felt a little more empowering.
Great. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I think you're right. So that actually is the opposite center of the dopamine neurotransmitter. We're activating the opioids in our brain. And this is a whole nother feeling, right? Where does this feel in your body? Where in your body do you feel when we were going through those yearnings and you closed your eyes and maybe even shared one? In your heart, in your center. Yeah. And grounded, a little lower, right? Like lower. Yeah. So you're not in this frenzied head space so much. It's actually more grounded, like you say. Yeah. So that is the difference. And this is a key part, because we think we're satisfying these yearnings all the time with our phones or connecting on Facebook. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when it becomes something that is a soft addiction, as Judith calls it, or is impeding your life in some way where you do need a digital device pause, then it's a good wake-up call. And you can shift those, because what's going on is that you think you're fulfilling your yearnings, you're thinking you're connecting, but in reality, it's not the case. This is the different level of the different chemicals going on in your body. It's fascinating stuff, and there's research on this as well. So how do you know, then, what you want versus what you yearn for? And there's a really good assessment for this. I have it in pause on page 21, if you've got the book. And this is Judith and Bob Wright's So That test, we call it. So I want everyone to do this now. If you've got a pen and a paper, you can use the paper that I handed out on the back. And go ahead and grab a pen. And all of the yearnings I read is on the blue piece of paper, by the way, in front of you. So you're welcome to take that, look at it, remind yourself what you yearn for every day now. So now that you have a pen and paper, everybody got that? This will just take a moment, so we won't get too much into this. But so here's what we're going to do. So on the piece of paper, write down 3 goals or objects or situations that you believe will make you enormously happy. There you go. And go ahead and give it a moment of thought. It doesn't have to be anything super long, but what are 3 things that you think you'd be pretty happy for right now in your life? And there's no wrong answer, by the way. This is just an insight. I'll give you a moment to do that. Okay, when you have your 3 things written down, go ahead and pick one that you want to work with that is the strongest, or just speaks to you at the moment. And what you're going to do is we're going to take the So That test, so that you say, does anyone have one they'd like to share? We can do it in the room, or I'll make one up. I won't make one up. I'll make my own. I have a lot of things I want to do. Okay, I'll use my own. So let's see. All right. So I want to get married so that I am happy forever. My fiance's in the back room. No need to be embarrassed at all. I'm engaged, so there you go. All right, so this is funny, right? Like, you can do anything. So, okay, so that what is the test? So I want to get married so that I'm happy forever. So that I feel, I feel loved. Well, that was pretty fast. I actually got right to my yearning. So my yearning is to be loved. So that was a quick one. But sometimes it takes 2 or 3 of them to go into so that. So go ahead and do that for yourself. So take the one that speaks to you right now and say, I want blank, so that blank, and then I want so that ... I want this, so that what? And then just take it another level. So I want to get married, so that what? And then I want to get married so that I'm happy forever. I want to be happy forever, so that what? Blah, blah, blah. So you take the last part, so that, and you just keep drilling down into it. And generally, if you do 2 to 3 of these, you're going to get to your yearning. And this is a skill so that you can actually do this as you build it more and more, and you don't need to write them down. You're going to know it pretty soon in your head. Does everyone have theirs honed in? So shout them out. What yearnings are out there? Anyone want to share? Just shout them out. Connection, safety. Great. What else? Feel valued. Having impact. Good.
Mine started off, I want to lose weight so that I feel better about myself, so that I stop beating myself up,
So that you love yourself. You want to feel loved. That's a good one. Yeah, so wonderful. So this is the yearnings. These are what we all universally have. However, they disguise themselves as these surface level wants, or we think we were fulfilling them because our dopamine centers are so active, we think that they're being fulfilled. And when you can use this as a tool, whether you're pausing in the moment to ask yourself, what do I really yearn for right now? You can act towards fulfilling it. So now that you know you want to love yourself, what else can you do right now? Maybe you actually acknowledge the fact that I'm okay. I love myself. Maybe I look at myself in the mirror tomorrow and I say it. And so these are the ways that we can satisfy our yearnings. And when this happens, this is where the magic happens. And Bob and Judith Wright, my teachers, and their website's right here, are fully aware and share that when this happens, and you actually start to not have burnout anymore because you're in the moment fulfilling your yearnings and you're satisfying and affirming yourself in these ways that you have these deeper hungers that are never filled through the surface level wants. So this is a really key point, and I talk a lot about yearnings in the book. There's a lot more about it with Judith Wright's work. But it's super important, and I think in our day and age, it's so easy to skip, or we don't even know we have yearnings. Or we're like, what is that, yearnings? I have no idea what that is. And so really what it is a desire that we all create and have for ourselves, and it's going to be different for all of us. So some of you might want to matter more. Some might want to be loved and loved. Some might want to connect, and they're all okay. And it's your job to figure out what they are so that you can work towards satisfying them. And pausing is one way you can start to do it. Does that make sense? Yeah, so this is a great test, a great example. And I invite you all to go through that in your own way and share that share the assessment with others, or it's in the book and you can read the book and talk about it, but it's like super important. And it can be the key to everything, because once you know your yearnings, once you know you want to be loved or to matter or to connect, it changes everything. It changes how you are in the world. It changes that you don't need to be on your phone now because you know you can connect with other ways. And you don't have to be the slave to dopamine that you might have been historically. Another tip is to say historically after everything you used to do so you don't do it anymore. Train your brain. So that's a little exercise I invite all of you to share or to continue to do, because you can do this in the moment. This isn't just one time I got a yearning. This is all the time. We are hardwired as people, humans that have yearnings. And I can't thank Judith and Bob, my teachers, enough, because now I know that I can satisfy my yearnings all the time, and I don't need to wait for something or think I need it from another phone or whatever it is that's going on. So that's a big part of my message too. And so from the pausing standpoint, we think about the big picture. Like, what is the point of all of this? Why are we wanting to pause more, and what is it all about? And I would say the whole point is that it's to lead more satisfying and meaningful lives. And sometimes we're just on the autopilot so much, or we're going through the rat race, or we're trying to do the best we can. We lose that. We lose what that is. And so I really think if I can create some space and choose to be aware and conscious, then I allow that to happen much more than I would if I was heads down and focused, or maybe in my negative mindset like I was when I was burning out. And there's no room for that. There's just no room unless I pause, for sure. I can attest to that. And everyone is different. So your pause might look very different than a pause that I took, or that she took, or you took. Like, it's just all going to be different. And this is a quote that I have, and I have these quotes on my website and my Facebook pages as well, but I love this one, and I love the image even more. You are the master of your destiny. You can influence, direct, and control your own environment. You can make your life what you want it to be. And that's a big message that I have. And it does take courage, by the way, looking at yourself. This is not easy. However, when you do, the risk and reward can be really positive and for the better for everybody, including you. And everybody, I mean you. So now this is kind of wrapping up here, but knowing what we've looked at today and some ideas of how to pause and what could be a different way to be and shift your behavior, what pause plan works for you? And I actually talk a lot about this in the book as well, but I think of it like a dashboard. So I have these 3 levers I can play with no matter what I want to do. And they're finances, so money. So do I have $0 and do I have more dollars than that? And what is feasible? Time frame. So what's realistic for me right now? What can I do? And the third one is activity. So I don't need to go out, now that I know what my yearnings are, I don't need to go out and blow like my life savings on a bucket list. I can actually decide what I want to do today, which might just be to have a meaningful conversation. And that doesn't cost anything, right? So those are ways that you can start thinking about things. And if you look at your time and your money, or sorry, your money, your time, and your activity, my guess is you're going to come up with a kick-ass pause plan that works for you. And like I said, it could take a number of different forms, and these are experiments. So maybe one day you try the daily breath pause, or you journal. It's a great way to pause. And there's actually data on this, that journaling, there was a research study from a group of people who journaled for 2 minutes for 2 consecutive days in a row. Who are my journalers here? I've had journals since like 1st grade. So if you do that for 2 days in a row and 2 consecutive days about an emotional experience that you had, so what happened? How did you feel? Your mood and well-being improves. And wow, what is that about, right? I'm going home to journal right now. So yeah, so there's just things like that are parts of ways to pause it. Maybe didn't occur, or now you can just choose to think differently. Like, what could I do differently today to help me live more aligned and satisfied? And so that's the whole idea of what I wanted to share today. We'll go to questions and answers. Thank you. So we will have a mic. We can pass the mic around, but I'm open to any questions you have, and nothing's off limits, so go ahead. And if you have okay. So question in the back, and I'll repeat it.
Actually, what it is it's kind of building off of the journaling piece. Recently, someone suggested, and it kind of gets back to getting centered and listening to here as opposed to here. So if you sit down with the journal and you just say, what is it I need to know today? And then it's really weird. You start writing. It's like, where is this coming from? You'll be amazed to
Yeah, so the comment.
to your inner.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, the comment is if you actually just start to write and pick up a pen and say, what is it I need to know today? And just start writing. So kind of like stream of consciousness stuff. You will have some answers, which is brilliant. Yeah, I agree with that. It's good. Any other questions? Yes, in the front.
Just thinking about asking for help, or when you've got families or friends, or if you're trying to, pause, or, she said kind of behavior change,
Yeah.
if you will. Thoughts on
Here,
how
I'm going to give you that because you have it right here.
Any thoughts on how you can ask others around you to help, or
As for support, yeah.
support, or,
Yeah. Yeah, so the question is, so if you know you need help or support, how do you ask, right? Okay. Yeah, so this is a good one, because I think a lot of times we don't want to ask for help or support. Who's in that boat? Who am I? I got this one. I got it. I'm all right. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, so I don't have the magic answer, unfortunately. I know you don't expect that, but I think it's a vulnerability thing, and being vulnerable is very important as you pause or return from a pause if it's a longer one. And I think it's about trusting what feels right for you. So if you know you need help and you're kind of tuning in to learn that, then I think a good question to ask is, well, who can help? What can I do for me? What can I support? And I think it's also a self-care move to know that you're not alone and to ask for support. And I do write about some tips in self-care because it's very important. So I say it's literally sharing you. So the answer is, in my case, or what I would believe is sharing your experience. What is it for you? So sharing what's going on with you. Why are you, okay, so I'm not feeling so great here in this role, and I'm just not sure what my next move is, and I'm not sure even what to tell you right now, but and then you can name a feeling, actually. Like I'm scared, I'm sad, I'm hurt. Yeah, so there's ways that do make it for you. It's not about, oh, you have this problem and I need help. It's like, how is it for you? And then you can allow someone else to see you more. This is the yearning to be seen. And you're responsible in your communication, and that's not always the case, but it can help. And then we all want to help as people. And if you are wired in that way, which we all are, I think it's a way that you can just connect with someone. And you already are helping if you're being with someone who can listen or be a listener. Yeah, that's what I would say. And then just ask. Yeah. Question? Yes.
So I want to know what made you write the book.
What made me write the book? Yeah. Wow, that's a good one. Okay. Well, I didn't sit down and decide to write a book in my pause at all. The book came about a year later, and I was back at Google and decided I wanted to share my story, really. And I wanted to help other people who were in similar situations and maybe burning out, because I figured I wasn't the only one, to learn how they can avoid burning out and maybe recognize the 5 signs, or to have some techniques on knowing how you feel at an emotional level, or yearnings, which are connected to emotions. So that's how I did it. And so what I did was, it's a good story. I actually started writing on planes. So when I would be on a business trip, I created a rule for myself, and Bob and Judith call these implementation intentions, and actually someone else before them came up with that name, but it's creating a rule. So if I'm on a plane, so an if-then, if I'm on a plane, then I write, and that's the rule. So it doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes or it's an hour. In my case, I was like, if I'm on a plane, I'm going to write. And then I knew myself that if I actually got the laptop out, started writing, I probably wouldn't just shut it down in a minute. So I started doing that, and then I had like a Google Doc and an outline, and I didn't know it would be a book. But that's why I decided to write, was to share my story, and I knew I had a lot to share about it. And I did, I guess, yeah. Yes, Mary?
Rachel, wow. I want to hear about the rules you created for yourself when you were on your pods. You had to be out of the apartment at 10 a.m. You had to do this. So
Yeah, the rules. The rules in the pause. Okay, so I had a couple rules in my pause, and I didn't know how significant they were to be until I actually put them in place. But my thought was, I got this from my friend Kathleen, who's in the book, and she's the one who had the technology intervention. She basically said, she was also on a pause and said, so it wasn't even my idea, but the idea was, you come from a land of structure. Here I am at Google, and we all are in the corporate world. Of what our own jobs are, my guess is all of us have really big structures in our lives and rigid things we do day to day. So instead of just going no structure, create some rules. So I created a series of rules which were super basic. Things like leave the house by 10 a.m. I think it was 10:30, maybe 10:30. Leave the house by 10:30 a.m., which meant maybe I go to the coffee shop, and maybe I go for a walk, or I just go outside, put the Netflix in the mailbox. Just like go outside, and that was a rule. Another one was to make my bed every day, and that one just seems like so obvious, but it actually made me feel good to see my bed and being made. It wasn't just this lump of sheets there that I'm just sleeping all the time because I don't have any time. I have all the time in the world. So there was a mentally stability there. I think mentally psychological safety for me with that. I had other rules. I would limit my my online time to 30-minute intervals, and once a day. So I had 30 minutes, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm starting my 30 minutes. And so I would time it, and then I would put it away. And so that was a big one, and I didn't realize how significant that one would be. So I didn't get tied up in hours of time and on surfing or emails, because I knew the point of my whole pause at that point was just to recover. And I didn't know what else there would be in store for me, but all I knew is the emails wouldn't help. The Facebook wouldn't help. All that stuff wouldn't help me. So that's some of the rules that I created. And I probably had a few more in there. But I'm a big fan of rules. And I think it's not to have rigid structure by no means, but these are broad brush strokes, right? So what can you do for yourself to create these boundaries with digital devices? Those are rules. Yeah. And so maybe for your pause, you can look at what type of pause works for you and maybe create a rule around it. And this is the if-then. So if it's bedtime, then I pause. I take a breath, 3 breaths. If I'm eating a meal, then I notice the colors on my plate. If I'm with someone, if I'm noticing a yearning, then I fulfill it. Yeah, so those are good ones. Question in the front.
So when you took the original pause, did it turn out that you discovered it had more to do with poor fit, like your original boss had been saying, or was it more about burnout? Or was it
Yeah.
both? And then it's like going back into it, did you find a new role and?
Yeah, so this is, okay, so the question is, how did I know what I wanted to do when I came back? I'm like,
It's more about that it really was a poor fit, or were you just?
yeah, was it poor fit? So was it a poor fit or wasn't it? And like, did I decide that, or was it like a manager thing, right? Kind of.
Yeah, just kind of what you took from it, how you figured out.
What I took from it.
To come back in as
Yeah.
something else, or did you come back in the same thing, but now you were refreshed and not burned out?
Yeah. So, that's a great question. So how did I assess my position and coming into where I come back? Like, what was next? So I had 3 months, which is like a lot of good, generous time. And the idea is that I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know I was going to come back to Google. I was pretty bitter when I left. I think I was in a victim mindset and thinking this was, clearly not my fault. Clearly, I'm fine. But I knew enough to look at it in an objective way later. So I took like a first month. I really just did nothing. I did the rule stuff, and then I would go to a coffee shop and like write emails to friends and like connect with others. I took a couple online classes, and then what ended up happening was through the time I was away, I realized it was me, because that's who's at the core of all the problems we all have, right? It's always you. So whether it was my manager or not, it didn't really matter. It was about me and how I could be responsible for my actions and what I could change. And if it wasn't a fit, it wasn't a fit. And then I realized it wasn't a fit. And I actually looked at my strengths, and I talk about this in pause, but I did the Strength Finders assessment, which is Tom Rath's book with the Gallup. You guys ever know this one? It's like been around, it's a great bestseller. And I'd taken it 2 years before, so I actually got the results back out. I had it here. And looked at my strengths and and then I asked friends about my own strengths and said, what do you think I'm good at? Because I don't know what my manager doesn't think I'm good at this, and I don't even have a clear head to know if I'm good at this. I don't know. I just didn't know. And so I got on this feedback, and people who I asked would tell me things that were themes that would emerge, like my networking skills were great, my communication was really good, I had a great sense of how to explain things on a technical level, and this was pretty consistent. So I was like, okay, well I don't suck, like I'm not terrible, so there must be something valid there. And then I looked at my strengths and decided sales was the role at the time that really looked like a great fit for me, because it leveraged all these things that I was good at. Networking, communication, people relationships. And so that's how I chose to go back into sales. And I chose Google to go back because I looked at what are my values and what is the Google values. And it was about like organizing the world's information is our mission statement. And I decided the values of mutuality and scale and creating equality are ways that I resonate, values that I resonate with. So I chose, I didn't think it was that Google wasn't for me. And I was pretty sure I was capable of being back there. I'd been there 5 years, so it wasn't about thinking it was a total misfit. So I looked at a bunch of different things, and through that lens and time, where I kind of came out of that fog of negative, nilly mental mindset, I saw the objective side, which was I'm capable of being there, and I know my strengths, but I think I was misaligned. I think I didn't really fit in an operational, really tedious role. And I can do it, and I have done it, but it wasn't like what I really loved. And so I like people. So I chose to go back into sales, which I'd been on the periphery for a while. But I chose and looked at jobs only in sales, actually. So anything that was in the realm of what I was doing, I said no, which was scary as well, because I was like, well, that sucks. Maybe it would have been the dream job. Who knows? You just don't know. And I had to be really firm with myself and say, that actually it doesn't fit your model, Rachel. That's not the strengths that really apply here, even though they would love to have you. And then all these companies that want you outside of Google, it was the same thing. It was more like the history that I'd had, which was operational and more support focused. Yeah. Okay, let me check the time here. Hang on. Do we have time for a couple more questions? Yes. I think so. Okay, keep going. Yeah. Well, yeah, right here.
What are your top 5 strengths?
So the top 5 strengths. So these are in the book. So I'm going to see if I remember them. But learner, actually achiever, If anyone knows these, just like give me a hoot, because I think we all are achievers. I'm achiever number 1, and I've actually taken it since then in your class, and I got different ones. So they do change depending on your skill sets and what you're focused on, but achiever is like hardcore number 1, which was interesting because that just means I'm a doer and I don't want to deny, like I just want to succeed and I'll do anything to tick off a box, like a lot of us probably, but is that really the best thing for me? Probably not. Learner. Woo, which is kind of a networker, like salesperson actually, wooing people. And then competitor. So I was a national champion rower. I've been a competitor all my life, and I'm still pretty competitive, but I'm nowhere near that realm anymore because I kind of decided yearnings are more important to me. And then I have another one, which I'm not quite sure. Positivity is the 5th one. Yeah, so 3 of those are my current strengths, and then I don't remember the other 2. Yeah, it's great to look at your strengths. Yes, question.
So I'm just wondering how men have resonated with your message versus women, not knowing
How have men resonated with my message? Yeah, well, thank you to the men in the room, by the way. There's a couple of you. One is my fiance, one's the recorder. And you, thank you. So I think it resonates with everybody, but women seem to resonate more with it. I've had more women be resonating and contacting me, and that's what I'm gauging it on. I think maybe one of the cool things that I've learned is that like pausing actually is I'll call it a feminine value. So the idea of holding space and creating space, and this is Judith's work too, just allowing things to be and not linearly doing things, like that's a masculine value, and it means we all have these values, but it's literally like more on the feminine spectrum. This is something that resonates really clearly with women. Men may not be so clear, might be, I don't know, might just not be the right messaging, or maybe it takes more time, I don't know, but I think it's good for everybody. But it's been more resonant with women, yeah. Yes?
So there's the responsive pause that's like, I'm burning out, or I'm feeling anxiety or whatever, but how do you think differently about the concept of the proactive pause? The like, I will take a yearly vacation, or I do a weekly technological shop.
Yeah. Tech Shabbat, yeah, that's another pause idea. Sundown to sundown, Friday to Saturday. Tiffany in my book does that. Yeah, so how, like proactive pausing, because the whole idea is just to be and not really necessarily plan, right? Well, it's a great question, and I would say, in a world we live in where we're so busy and always on, and achievers like me, we want a plan. So I'd say, if you have a place to go or something that you want to do every year, but then leave some space for the unknown. Don't map every day out. And if you're a control freak, which is okay, we all are in our own ways, type A's, hello, you don't have to plan everything. So maybe you give that responsibility to someone else and just see what happens. I want a tech Shabbat, will you plan it for me? You don't know. So like this is where you can experiment and have fun, but I think it's a good place to think about where's out of my comfort zone and what could I do? Because then you can really play with how you can be different. And then maybe that's where the creativity comes in and the ideas emerge and ways of being are different. So I like it. I actually, every year when I was writing, had a solo vacation, and I talk about this. So I took around the holidays, I would go down to Carmel, where I just came from yesterday, and I would go and write for 3 days, and I took a little solo vacation, and I would book a room or two, and then just use that time to write, and that was an intention that I set. But I didn't know how to do it the next year, but I liked what I did, so I did it again. And so if it works for you, if there's a pause that sticks, then I invite you to just keep doing that, because that's talking to you. And then the idea is to experiment too, because you won't know unless you know, unless you're curious. So try something else, and then know that, okay, that didn't work so great. I actually really like this type of pause, and go back to it, because that feeds your soul. That's what's mattering to you at the moment. So it's a little mix of both. Yeah. Question? You guys have great questions. Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. I was going to make some joke about being the menopause,
Yeah. That's okay. I've heard that one.
but I won't. So within a week, I found out about you, started reading your book, and before that, I decided I will go on a sabbatical. So I'm planning a month-long sabbatical in August. And one of the things that you mentioned early on in today's discussion was about shifting behavior with intention. And that word shifting really resonated with me. So,
Yeah.
how do you know when a shift is happening? How do you know, like for instance, I'm interested in shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, right? What helps ensure that shift will happen?
Yeah. So how do you shift? And like, what do you do? And but like, how do you know what to shift? And intentionally too is a big part of that. And I would say one obvious answer is the burnout, or you're just on the path of not sustainable action. So it might mean burnout. It might mean the job that's just, you cannot continue to work 15 hours a day indefinitely. And there's some variation of that. So that one's really easy because you know that there might be a way that you can do something different and then pause and intentionally say, I need to do something different. And then other times it might be more subtle. The signs come in here, the 5 signs you need to pause. So those could show up. So that's one way to be aware, to intentionally shift your behavior. But I think another part of it is to just reflect, like on an ongoing basis. And that's why I think the daily pauses are integrating that in a journaling way or in some way that speaks to you, that can incorporate an ongoing inquiry. And when you can do that, I think it helps to spark those the ideas that might be something isn't good or not. And it might be something that actually, like, things are going swimmingly well. Like, you're great, and there's no reason why you would want to have a shift or there's intention. Well, I invite you to say, how could it be better? Because we can always be better, and that's the achiever in me, but it's also a way that you can maybe give yourself some self-care and not say it has to be better, but say, what could be better? What could I shift? Because there's always something that you could do, but it could be really little. It might just be a compliment to someone. Love your green shirt. It might be something that just connects you, and it goes back to these yearnings. It's really important. So I think that is a way that you can think about it and check in with, what do I yearn for right now? And then know if you're fulfilling that or not. And then those are the shifts. Those are really easy ones that you can, once identify the yearning, think about. And so I'd say that's a good way to go. And then, yeah, just have the insights to always just be curious on inquiry and say, look, what's going on with me? And that's a scary question, as we all know. It takes courage. Yeah. I think one more question I think we'll do. Yeah.
So he's leaving me for 30 days.
Leaving you for 30 days?
It was before you read your book.
Oh, okay. Maybe he'll take you with you now.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
But, so what you said that resonated with me is going from wants to yearnings and connecting yearnings with courage. Now, I talk to people on a daily basis about courage, so that really piqued my attention. But do you think it's important to take it a step further? Because if we have a yearning, which is an amazing discovery that actually before today I hadn't actually thought of, so thank you. And then we have to be courageous, because we might want to feel loved, but then we're going to have courage to do something and take action. But do you think it's important, because the backside of courage is fear? So in order for us to have courage, we have to understand what we fear, whether it's fear of the outcome, like what might happen if I put myself out there, or fear of failure. What if I put in all this work and I'm just back at square one? Or the other one is loss pain. So what if I do all this stuff, but then I'm really jeopardizing something else and I might lose something else? So do you think that understanding fear is important in order to have courage?
Yeah, so I don't know if everyone heard that, but I'll repeat a little bit. Of the bottom line is what you just said at the end, which is, do you need to understand your fear to have courage, and it's the backside of courage and being that. So here's the thing about fear. Fear is with us all the time, and this is Bob Wright. I'm going to just keep paraphrasing people that have been teaching me. And we don't have to understand it, because it's there. It's a matter of acknowledging it and then trusting that you're okay in the fear. And there is fear, whether it's a very subtle fear of, like crossing the street and like looking and scanning for cars, or sitting here and wondering if the parking garage is going to close on you. Like, these are fears, literally fears. So courage is acknowledging your fear, and the courage to be. Paul Tillich is a philosopher in my book. and the courage to be you. And know that no matter what, with your fears, because it's human condition to be in fear, whether it's existential anxiety or just your core fear of death or something in the world, or the fear you're going to miss your flight, that you are okay and you're going to trust that things are going to work out. And so to pause is the ability to know that I'm going to look at that. If in some way I might look at that and I might not like what I want, like what I see, but I can have the courage to know now. And it might be painful. It might not be what I want to know. However, if I don't know, then I'm in the dark and I'm on autopilot and I can not necessarily change anything or be victim to what is happening to me, which is never a good idea. So so my response is that it's not about understanding your fear, it's acknowledging your fear and knowing that we're in fear all the time in some way, shape, or form, and that pausing is a chance to be with yourself in a way that you're really there and you can acknowledge that you just feel scared, or on an emotional level, like I don't know what I'm doing right now. I have no control. I'm in the unknown. I'm going away for a month, and trusting that it's okay. And that's hard. It's very hard. Nobody wants to do that usually, because it means our brains are wired for comfort and familiarity, and that's why we don't go out of our comfort zones and we stay where we are. And it's our belief systems too. So it's like a big answer for knowing they're okay in your fear. Yeah.
And you'll stick around.
And I'll stick around. I know we're out of time.
Put your for sale right over there.
Yeah, and
Beautiful presentation.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I'll be signing books.